Welcome everyone. We're going to start out Monday by looking at the stock market charts, and I've got a couple trade ideas or a couple individual stock trades that look promising, so I want to point those out. I'm going to start out today with the general market analysis as we start out Monday, and we're going to look at what the general markets are telling us. Again, we're in the summer months, so it's slower trading. There's less volume. It's the market tends to kind of grind around a little bit. And not really do a whole lot, no real definitive moves. So we have to keep that in consideration. And before I get started, guys, give me a thumbs up if you guys are at least finding value in the content. I put these videos out every day, and I'm constantly looking for trade ideas, trade setups. And the ideas that I'm looking for are trade setups that haven't triggered yet. So there's opportunity there. If I was to point out trades that have already gone up or already broken down and just say, look, the market went down, here's why, it doesn't do anybody any good. They can't make any money off that. So it's all about finding the setup, really evaluating the trade and how and what action, what action should be taken basically when certain things trigger. Again, everything on this channel is just my opinion. It's not trading advice or financial advice or any of that. Okay, we're going to start out with the SPY. Again, we're just grinding higher. Not much. You can see the last few days we're just kind of grinding higher below this green trend line. The green one comes off the March 2020 lows. You can see we held support here, held support here, held support there, held support there, and then we kind of grinded higher and finally broke. We did get a sell signal when we broke right here, and that is telling us that it's likely that we're just back testing that trend line and we're going to get rejected. All right, so I do think we're going to get rejected in this area. We could go a little higher, maybe hit the trend line, back test it a little bit for a day or a couple days, and then get rejected. One of the reasons why I think we're going to get rejected is negative divergence. See the PPO and the RSI, see how it's just continuing to drop off? So downtrending momentum. And that's what you see. You'll see prices kind of grind higher with momentum, falling. And that tells us that we're likely going to have a reverse in trend or reversal. We need to see that breakdown candle or that sell signal, some sort of a rejection right up in this area. We don't see it yet, so until we see it, we just have to wait. All right, moving on to the tech sector. Let me get rid of my little circle area. We're in the area where also I think tech should be rejected. We could go a little higher. We could go all the way up to 357, 360, somewhere right up in here. That would be coming off your March 2020 lows. Here's your March 2020 lows. We've been in an uptrend, held support here, held support here. Finally, when we broke that, we also held support right here for a couple days, but it did break. And when it broke, it was a big impulsive breakdown candle. All right, so there's a sell signal telling you that you're likely going to reverse trend. But then what they've done is had a pretty strong back test of that trend line. So we're now up near it. I think we could go a little higher and then get rejected. We just want to wait for that sell signal, that impulsive rejection candle, reversal candle, some sort of a doji telling us that this is the area where we're likely going to reverse and get rejected. And then ultimately, I think if we do sell off, I do think we're going to head down to this trend line all the way down here, which is about 300 or so. That's a ways down there, but that does come off of, if you look at the weekly chart, that's your long-term bull market trend in tech. So you can see here's your trend, your bullish trend. We've had a huge overshoot due to the Fed stimulus and the government stimulus. We've overshot that trend. We're outside of that trend. I think it's likely we fall back down at least to the top of the trend. Maybe we hold. I think we'll get a reaction there, some sort of a support. But if we end up breaking down into the channel, then we're likely going to the bottom of the channel. All right, down here. Again, that's a ways off, and we've got to just take it day by day. But that's just the bigger picture of what I think is going to happen. Small caps, let's look at these real quick. So coming off your March 2020 lows, you have an uptrend line. You can see we held support right there. This is a daily chart. Held support here. We finally broke right here, and we've been back testing ever since. But that back test, that upward trend has started to really base out and go sideways. You can see we dipped, we recovered. We're kind of going sideways right now. I think that's about it, honestly, for the rally in the small caps, and I think it's likely we're going to head lower. Again, we have negative divergence that continues to build. So we recently put in a new high just right here. We made a slightly new high, and it was a divergent high. See the momentum, how it's just downtrending on the RSI and the PPO, and yet price continues to kind of pop and make these slightly new highs. I think that's probably it for the small caps. We could go a little higher, but I wouldn't give it too much more to the upside. If you see a lot more upside, then it's just I'm just off on it. But that's what I'm seeing in that one. Again, no reason to necessarily short right here. We're right there at all-time highs, so it's really hard to just short against any kind of technical level. We do have what looks to be somewhat of resistance right in there at about 233.43. But again, I don't know. We could pop. I take that back. We didn't actually make an all-time high right here. We just were slightly below it. So maybe we're going to run up and pop this all-time high around 234.84 and then fail. I wouldn't give it too much more, though, beyond that. I think we're at the area where we really should find some major resistance. Okay, financials and industrials. They've been on sell signals. They broke their bullish trend a little while ago. So you can see here, financials, XLF, here's your bullish trend right here. Broke trend, had your first leg down in what looks like a downtrend, basically. So down, we bounce, and I think we roll over like that. I don't see any indication that this sell signal right here, this drop, was the end of it. I see us running into some resistance right there about 37.12. We could chop around a little bit, but ultimately I think we're going to continue lower. So no change there. And when I look at various financial stocks, they all look like we're going to continue lower as well. So no real change on those. As an example, here's Ally Bank. Again, you can see it's down 1% today, but we ran into some resistance right here at 51, and it's just, continuing to kind of sell off. So likely the way the sell-off will, we're going to continue to grind sideways, and then it'll just impulsively break, probably in one day. But again, all the financials are selling off today. Nothing crazy, but one of these trade ideas is MasterCard. Potential breakdown or sell signal today. You can see off the March 2020 lows on the daily chart, we held support here, held support there, kind of grinded along the trend line right here. Started to dip below, but it wasn't impulsive, and then they recovered the trend line. But today, it's a pretty impulsive sell down. It's one of the bigger red candles that I've seen in this for a while, and we're breaking that trend again. So this looks like a sell signal to me. We do have clear negative divergence that has been intact, and so we are breaking trend with negative divergence. It looks like there's some support right here at 357.73. You can see that was former resistance right through here. Then it was support all through here. So I think there's some support right there. So you might want to wait for that to go. But if that breaks, I think it's likely we're going to head down to 322.25 as the next level of support. And the industrials, here's your uptrend line on industrials coming off your March 2020 lows. Clear uptrend right there. And the uptrend is broken. It's obvious that we broke trend. Now we could drift sideways, and the way this works is you break trend, then you consolidate, and then you continue the trend. And right now the trend is down. The trend was up, we broke trend, so you can see we get a little bounce, and then I think we continue to sell off. So looking for lower prices, 97.30 is the next level of support. Below that, we've got 93, we'll call it 94 or 93.80. And I do believe we're going to continue to trend lower in these industrials over time. As I scan some of these growth stocks, I see everybody's piling back into these growth stocks again. So I'm not short any of these right now, but SQ, I am short SQ right here. We'll look at that one real quick. So this one has a bearish rising wedge on the hourly chart, and you can see that it's just a short time frame, but you can see we held this wedge. We popped above it, but it failed, came down to the bottom of the wedge, and then today they're popping it back up to the top of the wedge. No technical change in the fact that it is a bearish rising wedge pattern, and we're just at the top of the wedge. So again, I think this one breaks to the downside, but I am seeing strength or people piling into some of these growth stocks, at least today. They're all up, pretty substantially. One of the ones that's interesting, Lyft. So this is the one of the ones that I thought looked pretty weak though. And you can see on Lyft, you have this daily chart. Here's your support right here. We had negative divergence building, and recently we've just extended this negative divergence, but you can see that you had a sell signal right here, that big impulsive breakdown of the daily chart. So then you sell off, you came in for a back test, haven't even had a full back test really. They get close and the seller step in. They get close, the seller step in. So it's down 4% today. It's pretty much sitting at what looks like support right around this 58.85. So again, we could bounce off here, run up and maybe get that full back test, put in a new all-time high and then fail. I don't exactly know. All I know is as this thing rips into resistance, it's likely going to get sold into. And I think we're going to, maybe we could chop around here, but I think we're going to do something like this. We're going to hit this, bounce, and then continue lower like that. And I don't know if it'll be that steep, of course, but I think we're going to come fill this gap right down here at 32.05. The reason being is, one, here's your uptrend line. We broke trend with a nice impulsive sell signal. We're back testing. We also had negative divergence telling us that this momentum, this upward momentum, was about to fail and fade. So, and it did. We sold off. You rally. You sell. You continued the downtrend. All right, that's what I see on that one. Okay, gold and gold stocks. All right, the gold has pretty much flatlined. It's potentially bear flagging. All right, you can see it's very obviously bear flagging, so I'm not so sure it's going to do that. But you have a big sell-off here. You're then creating what looks like a flag pattern here, and then that would project that you're going to continue the bearish flag, and it really sets us up for a move potentially all the way down to about 1575. So keep an eye on that. That's always possible that that's going to happen. Another way to look at this is we had a downtrend, and this is how I'm actually approaching it. We had a downtrend here. We broke to the upside, so we had a breakout of that downtrend, and then we're coming in for a back test. And this is actually a support area, a buy area. So I could see us dipping a little bit lower down to about 1750, and that's the area where I really feel like there's probably going to be some strong support in gold. The miners continue to sell off a little bit. Here's GDX. GDX looks like it wants to sell all the way down to about $32, down to this support zone. So again, very similar to gold, but you have a downtrend, a clear downtrend. We put in bullish divergence down here at these lows, and then we had a breakout. So here's your breakout, a back test, and a continuation. But we're coming in for another back test, it looks like, of this downward trend line. So that's the buy area, or I think we could sell off a little bit more down to there. And so yeah, maybe a little bit more downside in some of these miners, and then some look like they're kind of stabilizing. So that's really how I'm treating that. I think we're getting close to what looks like support in some of these miners. I'll probably put out an individual gold mining video as the charts start to firm up, going through each one of these miners in the future. And here's Tesla. We haven't talked about Tesla for a while. So Tesla, clear uptrend in the daily chart right here. You can see all the reactions. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 reactions. We finally broke trend. There's your sell signal. See the impulsive breakdown? So when you get that, then you're going to, a lot of times when you get that initial sell signal, you're going to have a counter trend move that runs up and kind of really tries to wash out the shorts before it makes the next leg down. We could potentially head all the way up and do a full back test up around 770 or so. I'm kind of mixed on whether it does that or not. But I do think if it does do that, I think that area will get rejected. And if we can't make it that far, the seller step in early, then look for the next down move down to about 460. All right, 460 seems to be pretty solid support in Tesla. I do think we are heading down there in the near future. I remain short on this one. Boyd Gaming selling off today 2%. Again, we're just consolidating. I do believe we've started a downtrend Here's your uptrend like on Boyd Gaming coming off the March 2020 lows. Had negative divergence building for quite some time. There's your last divergent high, and there's your sell signal, big impulsive breakdown. So you break and you back test, and we're just consolidating. Really, this whole area here has just been this big consolidation where we're chopping around. It's kind of a battleground. I do think we're ultimately going to break to the downside and continue lower. Next level of support, there's some support here at 55.25. There's some support here at 50.80. So we'll watch those levels next, but I do believe we are going to break to the downside. You can see, I really have this level about 58.40. A daily close below that, and I think we start heading down to those levels that I just pointed out. Someone pointed out that CCL, which is the Cruise Line Carnival, has a sell signal, and it does actually. So here's your trend line on the daily chart. Throw out this because we have a lot of reactions basically outside of this right here, but you can see all the times you held the support right here, and there's a sell signal. Now, is it a false breakout? Could be. Earnings are out of the way. Actually, let me check real quick. Yeah, it looks like earnings are out of the way. It shows here these earnings right there, so it was a miss, or I guess. But also I see that they announced a stock offering, which dilutes the shares, so that's a sell signal. There's some support right here. I don't have the level marked out, but it's right about there at 23.96. So I'd expect a bounce there. But we could head lower after we break that level. So watch for a break of that. And then looking at some of these other travel stocks, they've all kind of broken. Now, these aren't trades as they've already kind of started to run. So it's not an area I'd want to be shorting this. But here's Southwest Airlines. Here's your uptrend line. Negative divergence intact. See the momentum just completely fade and drop off. And we just chop around for a while, and then you start to break to the downside. So again, this is already broke. Here's Jets. This one broke a while ago. Uptrend line. So these aren't trades that I would take right now. This one's coming into some support right here. This one's on support right about 2407. So if you bounce and maybe do a back test, that might be an objective area to short these things. So I'll keep an eye on those. Same with Love. Looks like it's coming into some support, but any kind of bounce into resistance, those are the objective areas to short at. Right here, they're not, but I just want to point the fact out that these travel stocks are starting to break their bullish trends. Okay, that's all I have for right now. I'll just keep an eye out on anything interesting. Again, summer months, we're going to grind around for a little bit, but don't fall asleep. We could have, when everyone's sleeping and not paying attention, that's sometimes when the biggest moves happen. So got to keep an eye on the markets and continue to look for the opportunities where they show up. Thanks for following along. I'll catch you guys on the next video.